you could almost make the case that until the last half hour, you probably could have pulled this off as a PG-13 movie.
Oh, for sure.
It's creepy and it's
Yeah.
kind of scary. And then it goes, and there's blood and stuff. Like, it's not bad. It could have been edited out. But then that last half hour is bananas.
Dude, effed up stuff happens left and right.
Yeah.
Which I think for me is probably why it was so memorable when this came out.
Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts, Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That is Kyle. Episode number 62, Movie Dads podcast, the 2006 supernatural horror film Silent Hill. Video game based supernatural horror film. We're going to do this episode as an I can't believe you haven't seen it. Because when we talked about Kyle liking this movie so much, I was like, I just don't remember that movie. And then I watched it the other day and I was like, I really don't remember this movie. Like, I remember people being in it, but I don't remember anything about the story or nothing. So that we're going to treat it as an I can't believe you haven't seen it. Howie, you piece of shit. You haven't seen Silent Hill. Even though I know I have, I just don't remember it. And we'll talk about that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. Click the bell so you get notifications on when new episodes come out. Leave some comments. We would love to interact with some of you on that. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, among many, many others. You can also find some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Kyle, why don't you start? Because I got a lot to talk about from this past weekend.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. You're right. You had an adventure. Nothing too crazy. This week, I chaperoned a field trip to the pumpkin patch, one of the pumpkin patches, to Skinny Bones, which I've never been to before. My wife has talked about it multiple times. It was actually a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun. Your son and my son were running around like maniacs. They have this, like, it's a slide, like a tube slide that they have built into this like plastic chute. I'd never seen anything. It was just like the most random thing, but it was a ton of fun. They made us ride on it. But yeah, it's fall season. It's spooky season.
Season.
I got kettle corn and a apple mold cider candle. We've made it, folks. So we did not get a pumpkin.
Too early. Too hot.
It was like 85 out, which was kind of weird to think like, all right, usually we like to come to the pumpkin patch when it's cold. But anyways, that was a ton of fun. My mom is coming into town actually this week. Her and a friend are driving up. But they will be staying with us basically through the weekend. So it'll be interesting to have my mom here. And I'm excited to see her, but she's also like a total California diva. So like her take on Nebraska is always very funny to me. So, but other than that, nothing too wild. I did coach another flag football game. Guess what? Last 3 out of 4 weeks, we played the same gosh damn team. I don't know.
Is there only 3 teams?
No, there's not. There are multiple teams in this league. There are 4 other teams than us 2. But somehow they've scheduled us to play these freaking kids who are a grade older. It's an all-boy team. I've got a full co-ed team. It's fucking... Oh, actually, there was a fan... I should tell this story. So they were winning. It was like 14-0 at one point.
The Harlem Globetrotters?
Yeah, the Harlem Globetrotters that we're playing. The all-white Harlem Globetrotters.
Whoa.
So my team out of nowhere, we're like driving. We start hitting passes left and right. Kids that like never catch the ball or catch the ball or moving the ball. They spot us at the 50-yard line. You have to get over the 50 to get a first down. You can only get 1 first down. For whatever reason, they marked us like an inch short of the first down line. There's one ref. our guy was very clearly over. For whatever reason, he marked us down. They also gave them a touchdown earlier where their guy walked out of bounds a foot before the goal line. But neither here nor there. But the coach for this team, he is this like smug, like.
Were you playing the Chiefs?
Pretty much felt like it. The way this coach acts, he's very like, oh, he's just so arrogant. Anytime the ref makes a call, he'll go up to him and like argue with him to change a call, and the ref will change the call.
That's BS.
We've played this team 3 times. There's been like 7 times where the other coach came in and was like, well, no, he can't do that here. And then the ref's like, oh yeah, we'll just switch the play. And
if you say so.
All the time. Yes, it's exactly what it was. So my team is driving on him. Actually, so they had scored. We took the extra point for a pick 6, but it was a pick 2 because it was on the extra point. But we took it 99 the other way. And so then we get the ball back and we're driving down. We're finally playing. And I think he was like frustrated with that or whatever. But so we get to this 1 inch line. I run just a shovel toss to pick up the 1 yard, which we got like 10 first down. Right. So we're getting ready to run our next play. And I know where this coach runs in and starts yelling at the ref of like, that's a no passing zone in flag football in the middle of the field, apparently, or no run zone. Apparently in the middle of the field, you cannot run the ball. You have to throw the ball, which is a very weird rule. And usually the ref will say like, no run, like whenever you're in a certain, he'll say that to remind you. He didn't remind us. And we ran a shovel pass, so it shouldn't have mattered. But this dude comes in, he starts complaining about it. The ref goes, oh yeah, and switches the play. So turn the ball over. So I'm going over to be like, whoa. Like, come on, guy. Like, and last week, he had a dropped snap in the end zone, which should have been a safety. If you fumble the snap, it's over. And if you do that in the end zone, it's a safety. I was like, no, we're not taking that. Like, run a play. Like, we want to play football. We're not taking that. And so, like, was being the, like, we're playing flag football with YMCA.
With 9-year-old.
Yeah,
9-year-old.
with freaking kids. And you're winning by 100 every game. So they overturn this thing. And I go over and I'm like, whoa. Like, come on, bro. You're up like 21-0. Like, are we really doing this? And like, as I say that, a parent behind me screams out like, quit crying. And I fucking lost it. I immediately turned and walked towards it because I was kind of close to all the fans. And there's surprisingly a lot of people there. There's probably like 80 fans there. There's a ton of people.
What?
Like shocking how many people show up to these flag football games. I think the Harlem Globetrotters they have a million fans of this. Yep. They're a traveling team. Jeez. So I immediately turned around and screamed back at all of them of like, it's flag football. Like, as in like, shut the fuck up. It's flag football. I thought that it was one of their fans telling me to stop crying.
Yeah.
And I fucking lost my mind to be like, are you kidding me? You're telling me to stop crying?
Right.
When this guy has fucking changed every play with this ref? Like, I don't say anything. I let the kids play. So I was fucking livid.
Yeah.
Well, I found out after the game, it was actually one of my parents who was yelling about the other coach.
Tell the other guy,
him to like,
shut
stop.
up.
Yeah, like, shut the fuck up, stop crying. So in the moment, I was so like triggered and livid at the fans of like, don't you fucking dare, that I missed a moment to go with my own fans to be like, yeah, this guy needs to shut the fuck up. Let's play some. Anyways, I was so fired up. And so the rest of the game, I didn't realize it. So the rest of the game, I literally walked over and I stood right in front of where the fans were, where I thought one of whoever it said to be like, yeah, I'm literally watching you, right? Like, say something else, bro. Yeah. Anyways, it was flag football and it got wild, but here we go.
Des always asks me, he's like, hey, why don't you coach? And I'm like, I don't have the temperament for it. I will fist fight a grown up.
I'm the most like having fun.
Yeah.
And out of this group, this is not me like talking myself up, but I am the most qualified football person amongst this group in terms of who's coached and played at the higher level. And like, I am the one who's the most laid back of like, all right, like let them have it. I'm going and telling their players good plays, good catch and stuff. And this dude is just like a fucking, I hate him. I hope he gets hit by a car. Anyways, tell me about your adventure.
Okay. I don't want to follow that because it's so good. Are you going to fist fight this guy on the last day? Anyway,
I'll meet you with the monkey bars.
We better not play them again. We played them half of our games this year, more than half. So.
Yeah, the end of the year tournament. You're in the championship. You're going to play them. All right.
Kill him.
Anyway, so big weekend for me and my daughter Reagan. It was Nightmare Weekend in Des Moines, which is like a horror con that they do, and it's part of Galaxy Con, so it's through a pretty big con group, because they do Galaxy Cons all over the country. So it was like in the Iowa Convention Center, and it was half Nightmare Weekend, and it was half like Animate. I don't know, Animate Weekend.
Is that the same place that we went for?
Yes.
Con? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It was in the like the bigger part, and it was set up different. I don't remember. It's half anime and it's half Nightmare Weekend.
Okay.
We didn't go for the anime. Anyway, so I'd never been to a horror con. I've only been to Comic Cons, which we've talked about, all the ones we've been to on the pod.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different experience. Horror cons are focused more on meeting these celebrities and less about like the comic books and the shops and the artists, right? So there's artists selling artwork and like, homemade stuff and things like that, but there's not near as many, and they're kind of like off to the side. Whereas like Celebrity Row, which in all the cons I've been to is always kind of in the back. Celebrity Row's right when you walk in, and it's like the center. Like it's the main, and it's huge. There's tons of people. So like the four actors that are still alive that have played Jason Voorhees were there.
The way that you were saying that.
Yeah.
There were 4 living humans.
Everybody else was a zombie. But the four actors that are still alive that have played Jason Voorhees were there. And
Nice.
And like,
that's cool.
Friday the 13th was like huge part of my childhood, right? So when Reagan first started watching like really good horror movies, like slasher movies and stuff, I was like, we're going to watch all the Friday the 13th. Cause like 2 years ago, we went to the drive-in. They did like an all night. They played like 1 through 7. We stayed up all night and watched them. But like Friday the 13th was my jam as a kid. Like I remember when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I'm like watching Friday the 13th part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan on like USA, right?
God. Was that really part 8? The Manhattan one was part 8?
Yeah, I can list all of them. I don't know what they're all called. So anyway, I was like, I really want to get autographs from these guys. It would be so cool if we had the time to get an autograph and picture with all of them. And the cool thing was each one of them, if you bought an autograph, you got a selfie. You could take a table selfie. We also signed up to get a photo op with Kane Hodder, which he played Jason in like 7, 8, 9, and 10. So he was like my favorite. And I was like, well, I want to get a photo op with him. But also, David Howard Thornton was there, and he's the actor that plays Art the Clown from Terrifier.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Which
picture.
Terrifier is a newer franchise, right? The first one was super low budget, nobody saw it, but it kind of got a cult following on Netflix. So then I think it was 2 years ago, the second one came out, like a $250,000 budget, right? It was super low budget. And it made like $15 million in the theaters because like a bunch of people went and saw it. And it, yeah. And it had like a ton of reviews in it, and good reviews. It was super positive. The thing about Terrifier is Terrifier has the gnarliest, nastiest practical effects. It's one of the sickest, most gross, gory movies you will ever see. You can watch like the first 5 minutes of the second one and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Okay.
Terrifier 3 actually comes out in like 2 weeks.
Oh.
And so the director and the main actor were there. And I will tell you this, like, because I met some celebrities. Like, you were there when we met Jim Starlin, which was super cool.
Yep.
You were there with Michael Rooker, which was super cool. Our experience in Kansas City with like Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard wasn't as good when I took Reagan there. They weren't super friendly.
Yeah, they were like, get in, get out, get in, get out.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. And it wasn't even like a hi, thank you or anything like that. The horror guys were so freaking nice. Like it was insane.
Nice.
How nice they were. And Derek Mears, who played Jason in the newest remake in 2009 when they remade Friday the 13th, he was also Swamp Thing in the most recent DC series.
Oh, cool.
That came out just a few years ago when they did when DC had its own streaming service. You remember that?
Yep, I owned it.
Yeah,
I paid for it. Yep.
Anyway, I don't know if you watched Swamp Thing, but he played Swamp Thing. Anyway,
I did. I liked that show, and I was bummed that we didn't get more of it.
He was the nicest freaking dude ever. Like they were all super nice. Like it was crazy because these guys are all huge.
Yeah,
they're all 6'4", 6'5". And even the guys that are 60s and 70s now were the nice. I posted all these pictures and stuff on our social media, but I had the best time, and Reagan had the best time too. And they were so nice. Even the guy that played Art the Clown, the friendliest freaking dude in the world.
He's terrifying looking as Art the Clown. He's terrifying.
Yeah, and so we got a photo op with him in full costume.
Oh, sweet!
Which was.
I did not see that. That's cool.
Yeah, and he wouldn't talk.
That's awesome.
At all.
That's so creepy. You got to meet the real Art the Clown when he was in character.
And then I got a photo up with Kane Hodder, who was my favorite Jason too, which was great. So
cool.
I had the best time.
That's awesome.
And
do you think maybe they're it's overcompensation for we are known as murderous monsters, and I want you to know that we're not really like that?
I don't know if that's what it is or not, but all these guys are all the Jason guys are stuntmen. That's how they got the part, was because they're these great big stuntmen. So when we went to a panel with the four of them where they did a Q&A, and somebody said thank you. You guys have been so nice when we've come up and met and got selfies and stuff. And they were all cool about selfies. Put your arm right around you, shake your hand kind of deal. Didn't rush. They would literally tell you a story. When Derek Mears had a short line, none of these guys had super huge lines. David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown, did, but Kane Hodder's was kind of long, but some of the other guys wasn't super long. They took the time to tell stories and asking questions and stuff, which is nuts.
That's cool. Yeah.
But Derek Mears was in a movie that came out, I think 10, 12 years ago. It was called The Aggression Scale. Super low budget, indie film. But it was basically about this dad of this family, swindles some mobsters out of money. So the mobsters come to their house to kill them, basically. But the thing is their son, who's 12 years old, is insane. And this movie is literally Home Alone if Kevin McAllister was Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, gosh. Nice.
So Derek Mears is one of the main baddies in that. And I was telling him, I'm I bet you probably never get asked about this movie, but I asked him about it. And he's oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought it up. And he talked to us for 5 minutes. There's a line of people and I'm
that's cool.
And he didn't care. He was just super nice. Anyway, so I got all four of them to sign my hockey mask.
Dude, that is so cool.
And all in different colored Sharpies too.
I love it.
And they all
was such a cool idea to do.
Yes.
What a cool thing.
So it's going to go right here. And I have 3 of those 4 guys' figures already.
Got to get
one of them you got me for Christmas last year. So
did you already have that one though?
I already had 2. No, I already had 2. And then you got me the Freddy versus Jason one, which we met that guy. And then the only one I had to buy was Derek Mears' figure. And
so now you have it?
It'll be here Saturday.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have all 4 of them on that shelf with the mask. Yeah.
But it was outstanding.
So during this panel, when somebody said to all these guys, thank you, Derek Mears, well, he's a chatter. He's a chatty boy. Let's just say that.
He's
he's
a talker.
Yeah. Every time somebody asked a question, everybody would give a nice little answer and he would just start going on. And my daughter leans over to me and she's he's a yapper. And
that's funny.
So he said, he goes, I've done a bunch of these cons. He goes, I've done Comic-Cons and stuff because obviously I was in Twin Peaks. I was Swamp Thing. He goes, I've done all these. He goes, horror fans are completely different. He goes, a comic book fan will shove you out of the line and step on you if it means they can get to the front of the line faster. He goes, while a horror fan will sit there and listen to us talk and will enjoy the stories that we're having, because then they know they're going to get to talk to us too. They don't care about time. They're just happy to be there.
Oh,
and
cool.
he goes, and that's why these are my favorite kind of cons, because horror fans are so friendly. And he was dead on
That's
that.
cool.
And I believe it. Anyway, so it was the
That's
best
awesome.
time.
I
a great
love
time.
that. You talking, well, obviously that sounds awesome. Not that I'm not a horror guy. I love them, but I feel like you and Reagan, like that's your thing.
And
so
it's our
that
jam,
is cool.
for sure.
That is so cool. It also reminded me of something that we did this week that I didn't mention was we went to there's Paranormal Cirque. It's basically like a paranormal circus that came to town. I totally forgot to talk about that, but it was I think were the only person that when I sent a video of like, this is what we're going to do, you actually knew what it was. No one knew what it was, but it's kind of like a sideshow circus, very adult only. You have to be 18 and up to go. It is basically like a horror movie in a show. But there was a section in the middle where during they took a break for the performers to have a moment, but they put a giant Jason Voorhees in like an electric chair in the middle. Yeah. And then Michael Myers and Ghostface, like you could go up and do like a photo with them during the middle of intermission in front of the whole crowd. So like the whole time Michael Myers was like humping like wives and like doing sounds really childish, but like the things he was doing were actually hilarious, just like totally killing the room.
That's cool.
Like doing like laying down on the ground and like posing all weird or jumping up on the husband. But anyways, it was really cool. It was very much all of those kind of horror characters. So anyways, cool. All right.
That's awesome. One last thing I did want to say that, so we did wander over to the anime side, and there was a lot of voice actors and stuff there. Like John DiMaggio was there, Tara Strong was there, like people that you would recognize who I'm talking about and things like that. So obviously, I didn't take my son Desmond because he would not have had a great time at the horror con, but I did get him an autographed poster from Charles Martinet of Mario, and so he, it was super cool because he wrote like, to Super Desmond from Mario and then signed his real name. And
that's awesome.
So it was pretty neat.
That's super cool.
He was, and I showed Des a picture of him and he's like, oh, I'm glad you met him, not me.
Don't want to ruin Mario for me by meeting a random dude.
Old guy with long, scraggly white hair. And, but he was cool
that's
too.
Cool. The anime crowd wasn't normal, or don't take this as me hating on anime. I love anime.
No, I'm not trying. Reagan took her body spray.
Oh my god!
In the air a few times. It was
just
not
spray people as they walk by.
She kind of did. She was not subtle. She goes, I don't care, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I mean, and it was bad.
That is funny. I haven't been to a con that was like so bad. The Denver one. But it was more because the food court had all these things with onions, which is like, why would you do that?
They already smell like onions,
and they order it. Like, who's getting a chili dog with 700 onions on top? Anyways, well, love that for you. Lots going on this week.
Yeah,
which takes us to kind of our my most excited segment, our 6 to midnight. This is the section of the show where we talk about things, nerd news, things that are coming up, things that get us excited, that get us up in the morning. So whatever is going on, trailers, casting news, video games, comic books have come out. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's come out this week. I'll just jump right into it. This was announced like an hour before we started the show, or a couple hours before we started the show. James Gunn announced a new Robin movie. Basically, it's called The Dynamic Duo, but it's Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, who are the first Robins. But the interesting part is it's part of their animation studio or animation project but it's not just like cartoon animation. It's CGI puppetry and animation. So I don't really know what that is or how they're going to do that, but
I don't know how to feel about that either.
Yeah, it is Matt Reeves. Like his particular studio is involved with this, or like being like their studio is what's going to be doing the movie. So that I think that's kind of cool. It's like Matt Reeves, some semi will have involvement. James Gunn seemed really excited about it. I don't like. For me, this is something that I know whenever you text me, you're like, what is going on over here? Like, what kind of shit show is all these random movies? I would much rather a movie like this be announced than like Creature Commandos. Like, I don't give a fuck about Creature
Totally
Commandos.
understand. Okay, so they're talked about this as an animated kind of a spin-off movie, right? With the two Robins called the Dynamic Duo.
Yeah.
Then I'm sure you've heard the news that there's reportedly a Bane and Deathstroke team-up movie or something.
Yeah.
I'm worried they're going into the Sony trap and they're making movies about side characters in the Batman franchise with no Batman, right?
Dude.
As much as we've talked about like Venom and Morbius and Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter hasn't come out yet, so I can't shit on it yet. But like there's these Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and we also got the news today. Well, not news, but it was like a leaked story or just a narrative, which I think is interesting timing with this Robins movie being announced, because it was like reported today that WB, like the CEO, is like he wants Robert Pattinson's Batman to be the main Batman in this DCU, the new DCU. Basically, kind of the report was that like they are upset. They're like, we need to bring Batman a lot sooner. We need to compete with Marvel now that Marvel's got their Doctor Doom and their Fantastic Four. They're like, we need Batman. We need to put Batman in. So let's push for Robert Pattinson's Batman to be in it. So I don't know how that's going to happen. And if they do that, I feel like that's going to throw a major wrench in James Gunn's original plans.
I don't know how that's going to work. I will say this. Batman Cape Crusader was really good. Penguin's starting off really strong with the first couple episodes. Like,
did you watch that yet?
Yeah, I watched the first one. I think the second one just came out, and the reviews are good. But man, I'm still skeptical. But like so far, what they have put out, it's been good. Yeah. So I don't want to poop on anything yet. I want to go poo-poo on it, but it all sounds weird.
I agree. It
doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to reboot DC, like we've talked about this 700 times on this podcast, like you keep making weird decisions. Like we've already talked about Creature Commandos and Waller and all. Like, why? And if you're gonna do Brave and the Bold, do Brave and the Bold. Fine, do that. But Dynamic Duo, I mean, it's an animated, so okay. Like, animated's been pretty good in the past, but like Deathstroke and Bane, like who asked for that?
Yeah. How random is that stuff? I felt like the Superman movie was supposed to be like essentially the kickoff to this new like universe. But I mean, obviously we know that we were getting like Creature Commandos earlier and these other things early, but it's like, it feels like we can't really start till we get Superman going and then really until Batman is there. So I don't know. I felt like this Robins was trying to establish some backstory. I did see one report. I don't know if this was true, but one of the reports was talking about like a full, like essentially a synopsis that like Dick Grayson, which I hope this isn't true, but it's like Dick Grayson and Jason Todd are both orphan thieves that are best friends which when I was reading, I was like, I hope this is not what it is. I don't think it was, because James Gunn really only released that tiny little post. So I don't think that was true. I hope not, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, it'll be interesting, but that was news that came out today. Yeah. And then just one last thing from my side. One of our generation's greatest actors
Maybe the greatest.
Yeah, could potentially be
Could be.
argued as the greatest, or in the top 3 of greatest actors
Mhm.
ever. One, Daniel Day-Lewis, coming out of retirement. He's been technically retired and out of the spotlight for 7 years. His return is for a movie by his son. His son's directing. I think it's Anemone.
Yes.
Anemone. I did not read particular what the movie specifically is about, but he's starring in it, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, Anemone, yeah, which marks the directorial debut of his son Ronan Day-Lewis.
What a name!
Yeah,
what a badass name.
And Daniel and Ronan co-wrote the film, described as an exploration of the intricate relationship between fathers, sons, and brothers.
Okay, that's
take my money.
Right up my alley. That's my life. Nice. I love that. Old Gangs of New York, The Butcher. Give me that movie. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I know you got 12 other things. What do you got?
Just a couple, not a lot this week, but speaking of coming out of retirement, somebody who we just talked about last week, the Frank Darabont, who wrote and directed The Mist, who wrote and directed Shawshank, which we talked about. He's been retired for 11 years, and he's decided he's going to come out of retirement to help direct several episodes of season 5 of Stranger Things.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Cool.
He's quoted as saying, "Our content now is so filled with horrible people doing horrible things for greedy reasons. Stranger Things has so much heart. That positivity is something I really responded to. And so I'm coming out of retirement."
Oh, yeah. I love that. And I love
too.
Stranger Things, by the way. I'm a major Stranger Things fan.
And the guy can write and direct the hell out of a movie. So
yeah, that'll be fun.
Other news, also in Netflix. Netflix shared their first look at Cillian Murphy as Tommy Shelby, back for the Peaky Blinders movie. If you've never watched Peaky Blinders, went off I think wrapped up a couple years, 2 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Stephen Knight, who co-created the series, shared his first look of Tommy Shelby as they've started
gray hair
filming. Yes, he does. Well, I'm sure it's been a few years.
Yeah, this is picking up where it left off, right?
Right.
I freaking love Peaky Blinders. That show directly inspired a ton of my 3-piece suits back when I was working in public face. Like, I freaking love Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, it's a great show. So exciting for the movie, especially coming straight to Netflix. And then last thing I had just today, it's October 1st. Deadpool Wolverine's on digital. You can buy it or rent it today.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Did as soon as I got home, and I watched the last battle scene. I just went straight to it.
I'm going to do that too. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it tonight after we're done.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's what I need to do. I need to buy it right when we get off this damn thing.
That's what I did. Anyway, that takes us into our I can't believe you haven't seen it. Sort of. We've done this before. Sort of. Mm-hmm. The 2006 supernatural horror film Silent Hill. I'm going to go through the information about the movie, and Kyle's going to lead us through it because this was his movie, so well liked, and he'd remembered it. I didn't. So, anyways, directed by Christoph Gans, and written by Roger Avery. Cast includes Roger Mitchell as Rose Da Silva, Sean Bean Boromir himself as Christopher Da Silva.
Forgot he was in this movie.
Right. Laurie Holden as Sybil Bennett, the police officer. Deborah Kara Unger as Dahlia Gillespie, who is the mother of Alessa. Kim Coates, that's a dude, as Officer Thomas Gucci.
He's what other movies is he from?
Isn't he from
he's from Sons of Anarchy?
Yep, Sons of Anarchy. Yep.
Yeah, he's one of the Tigs.
I always think of him as, like, have you ever seen The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis?
Hell yeah!
You know the part where he hits the guy with the nose and he kills him? I'm pretty sure that's him.
Yeah, it is
pretty sure that's Kim Coates. Anyway, that's what I always, every time I see him, I'm like, that's the dude Bruce Willis fucking killed
in the back alley or something, right?
And I was like, he had him like next to a pool, and he kept slapping the cigarette out of his mouth when he had him tied to the chair.
Yeah.
He goes, you do that again, I'm going to break your nose into your brain or something, and he does it. It's badass. Anyway, Tanya Allen as Anna, Alice Krieg as Christabella, also the Born Queen, and Jodie Furland as
That's who it
Sharon
is. The
Alessa.
Borg Queen.
She is the Borg Queen.
All I could think was like, is that the stepmom from Terminator 2? Like that's all I
No.
could picture, but it was the
She's
Borg,
the Borg Queen. Right.
She was good, very creepy.
She's always creepy. Did you ever see Sleepwalkers? Was a Stephen King one? Yeah, it was weird. Like people that turned into like cat people and they ate people. She was like the mom in that.
Dude, Stephen King has so
weird some shit.
Weird things.
Yeah, he did a lot of drugs. Anyway, Silent Hill had a $50 million budget. It made $100 million at the box office, so it was profitable. And then I just
doubled
have
their money.
Couple fun facts I'll bring up while we're talking about it. So take it away.
Well, one, it's actually been a while since I've watched this movie, so going back through it, I was like, multiple times I was like, God, why do I love this movie? And then multiple times I was like, that's why I love this movie. So, so just to kind of preface this movie, Silent Hill is a very famous, popular horror video game franchise, which I don't know if you can hear that clacking. My old dog is slowly moving across the room. Anyways, so it's like a horror video game franchise, very kind of similar to Resident Evil, but more on like the creepy demon body horror type stuff. Less zombie, more kind of on the horror demon side. So, one, I completely forgot about the beginning of this movie. Like it starts out with it literally like starts 100 miles an hour, and that it starts with the mom running outside of her very giant mansion in the middle of the night, like screaming for her daughter. You have no idea what's going on or who is who. And she goes on this long trip down into like a back ravine under like a bridge and a stream, and then onto like a cliff where this waterfall is. And then it shows her daughter is on the other side from what we think is sleepwalking, but is randomly about to jump off this cliff, and she goes and tackles her and saves her. And as she saves her, the daughter is like freaking out, and she just keeps saying like Silent Hill, Silent Hill, Silent Hill. It's like that's where we get the preface of what kicks off the story.
All right.
Again, I forgot about the beginning, so the whole time I was watching was like, is this the right movie? Am I watching the right movie? Because what? So basically, the mom is going to take the daughter to this town called Silent Hill that because her daughter has mentioned it, she's now going to go check it out. She doesn't really know backstory. Something's going on with her daughter. She's haunted, or something's like plaguing her mind. Obviously her daughter sleepwalked to try to jump off this cliff because of Silent Hill or whatever. So she's going to go and find out what that is. So the town itself, when they end up coming up to this town out in the middle of nowhere, it is based off of a real town in the US where is that one of the fun facts that you had?
Yes, Silent Hill actually the Silent Hill takes place in West Virginia.
Yeah.
The town it's based on is Centralia, Pennsylvania, which used to have 2,000 people living in it. It now has like 5 because it has had a coal fire burning under the town for the last like 60 years.
It's crazy.
It is
crazy.
Insane.
So the town itself basically is like essentially over hell. Like underground is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
But they pull into this town, and there's really spooky fog that pops up. Her car ends up crashing. She wakes up in her car. The door's open. Her daughter's gone.
The cop was chasing her.
Oh, yeah. So, which I must not have. I was working while I was watching it, but I don't remember why the cop randomly started chasing her, because
she stops
the
for
road's
gas.
blocked off or something.
She stops for gas, and the cop sees the girl in the car, and she approaches the car, and like the mom like gets in real quick, and they take off. Right?
Yeah. So she thinks something's weird is afoot.
Yeah. So she follows him.
And the town itself is like blocked off, or like people aren't allowed to go there because of the coal fire that's under the entire town. So anyway, so she runs from the cop directly to where Silent Hill is, crashes her car, wakes up, her daughter is gone, and she basically gets out of the car, and she is now in this spooky town called Silent Hill.
There's like different versions of the town too, right? Like there's the 1970s version, which we see some part of. There's the snowy, ashy part of the town. There's the actual town, which is like what her husband sees later on. And then there's the nightmare town.
Yes. Which when she crashes her car and wakes up, it's like foggy, but looks like it's snow. Looks very snowy, but it's actually not snow, it's ash. But it looks very snowy, and this is like your introduction to that you don't realize at first that there are multiple like versions or multiple like realms of this town. It is, the town itself is super spooky. It's very abandoned and creepy. She's walking around. She's going through basically down the streets. She ends up going through an empty school building. But as she's walking, randomly, like a tornado siren starts to go off. That like big creepy, like atomic bomb, scary ass sound that I have heard in Nebraska multiple times, and it scares the shit out of me every time. But so this alarm goes off, and then all of a sudden the clouds in the sky get dark. Everything kind of turns like orangish red, and fucking you hear creepy things in the background, and then creepy things just start popping up everywhere and chasing after her. Now, this is where I will say some of the things that come after her are like straight up like body horror, just disgusting, deformed monsters, like armless people, giant.
There's
like
a good, at this point in the movie, there's a good like 45 minutes of her just like walking around town and creepy shit keeps happening. Like there's really no plot moving. More of the plot moves during this part of like the husband coming to the town and meeting the cop, and they're walking around, and that's when you realize that they're in the same place as the wife, but she's in the spooky realm and he's in the real town. But like one thing I will say about this movie that I think it nails is like, I think the atmosphere is awesome. Like it is creepy. Like the set design's cool. The director said he wanted to use as many practical effects as possible. There does appear to be a lot of CGI in it, but it feels like most of the things, like the nurses and Pyramid Head, and like even the thing that's all barbed wire and she pulls the thing out of his mouth. And anyway, like those are all like performers, like all contortionists and stuff.
Oh, cool.
I think that's pretty cool. One thing I thought was an interesting fun fact was the director, while he was on set, actually had a TV, like an LCD TV and a PS2.
Oh,
and
cool.
if he was trying to convey how he wanted something to look to the actors as cinematographers, he would like play it through it so they could see.
That's awesome.
That was kind of a neat detail.
So I never played the Silent Hill game. I don't remember why. It felt like for whatever reason there was like you were either Resident Evil or you were Silent Hill, and Resident Evil was way more popular. But we never played the game, so like this movie was actually my first introduction to it. So I had gone back and played after, even though at that point it was way older. I really like this movie because it feels like they know the video game, and they're like, we're going to make this like the video game. So like it didn't feel like they were trying to like be grounded with some of these like monsters. It was like, this is the creepy thing in the video game that chases you, and we're putting it in the movie. There's a ton of like iconic characters that came out of this movie in terms of like cosplay and like very recognizable like horror characters, like Pyramid Head. You mentioned he's this creepy, jacked, shirtless dude with like a
giant of a man.
He's a mass. He's like the Mountain from
Yes.
Game of Thrones. He's got like a leather like butcher apron on, and then the world's largest sword. Like this thing is like 12 feet long. It's super fat, and he drags it when he walks everywhere, and it's loud, and you can hear the metal scraping on the ground. But when Pyramid Head shows up during the darkness time or the hell time, whenever throughout the movie this alarm will go off, it'll turn into the scary hellish area. All these monsters are coming out everywhere, and then after a certain amount of time, right when she's about to die or get taken, they disappear, and it goes back to the like snowy, cloudy time. So but anytime Pyramid Head kind of shows up, it is very fucking terrifying and ominous and creepy. Like you said, really honestly, the story itself, it is very not necessarily convoluted, but you get a lot of info at the end of the movie.
Yes.
You don't really get any during the movie, like during the majority of the movie.
Like the last like half hour is like all the plot.
Yeah, it's like word vomit of
she's
everything.
trying to find her daughter. That's what it. I was just about to There's say. The movie until the movie is her. Half hour.
The movie is her.
This movie's 2 hours and
7
minutes long, and the last 37 minutes is the plot.
Yes, which you mentioned, like, so as she enters the town and all this starts happening, she's walking around, and it keeps going from the dark time to the light time.
Yep.
You then realize, because they pan back to the husband. Her husband is now come after her to try to find her. I don't remember specifically why he didn't just go with them from the beginning.
She left.
She snuck out with them.
So the thing is like, so the daughter's adopted, and he wants to like get her help, like put her in a hospital, get her medication. She's clearly got some issues, while the mom wants to protect her daughter at all costs and just take her to this town to see if she can find some answers. So that's why she leaves without him, is because she feels like she has to do this because he won't let her if she involves him.
Yep. Okay. So Sean Bean comes after her, and
he wants the ring for himself and all the power.
Yes.
So
one does not simply walk through Silent Hill.
Right.
So Boromir himself comes after, and he meets the cop Tig, which I don't remember what Tig from Sons of Anarchy's real name was, but
Kim Coates is the actor, and he played Officer Gucci.
Yeah, so Officer Gucci and Sean Bean are like, he's trying to find his wife. They say that the car crashed, but there's no sign of anybody. And so the cop takes the husband to Silent Hill to like look for her. But when they are there, like you mentioned, it is like the real world, totally different from what it is when she's wandering.
Right.
So we pan back to her. The alarm thing has gone off. She gets chased by all these monsters, and then she basically tries to run back to her car to get the fuck out of there. And as she does, she finds that she can't leave, and that also, as she's in her car trying to figure out like what she's going to do, this cop shows up, this female cop who originally had chased her, basically chased her into Silent Hill. And then the cop originally is like trying to arrest her, trying to take her back to the precinct.
Yeah, she handcuffs her.
Yep.
And then she runs away.
Yeah. As she's trying to walk her back to the precinct to leave Silent Hill, a very like creepy individual, armless head creature monster like comes after her, and it's like the realization to this lady cop that something is fucking weird, and this is not like we're in a horror movie. So she starts shooting her. The lady takes off running, and ends up being kind of like a buddy cop film where
for a little bit. Yep.
And the mom end up like working
trying to
together,
survive.
trying to survive and find out what is going on and,
And
where
find
the
the
hell
daughter.
is her daughter. So,
Right.
really, like, that's primarily what I think is the best
Yeah.
part of this movie is just the town itself and
It
the
is
setting.
by far the best part of this movie is how this town looks and how creepy this town is, and like all the different like dungeony kind of places, and that's the best part. But while they're searching, they do find someone that looks like like her daughter, but it's not. It's part of her daughter, kind of, sort of. So there's Sharon, who's the daughter, and then there's Alessa, who is the actual girl. And you go into this, but like, so they find the Alessa entity part, and she kind of, this is where things start to get explained.
Yeah, which the way they get there, at one point they actually come across this church which has a bunch of what seems like real humans.
They go to the hotel, they meet Alessa's mother, and they meet Anna. And Anna's the one that leads them to the church.
Yeah. Where they meet these like other humans from what they think are other civilization.
But the church is like protected from the darkness, like when the siren goes off. Like if you're in the church, you're okay.
Yes, which they start to explain that, which gives you a little bit of a like understanding of like how the town changes and monsters come, blah blah blah. But
the best part of this movie, my favorite part, is when they're running up the stairs to the church. The siren's going off and everything's turning dark.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, "You gotta hurry!" And like Rose is trying to talk to Alessa's mother, Dahlia, and to try and find out what happened. And Dahlia's like, "Don't go into the church. Like they're cold, they're nuts, blah blah blah." And Anna's like, "Come on, you need to hurry." And like, so then they go up the stairs, and then here's Pyramid Head, and he grabs Anna as the cop and Rose get into the church, and he rips her dress off, and then he rips all of her skin off and throws her body at the door, and it just like sprays. They all get soaked in her blood. It's nuts. It's wild. This is the best part of the movie.
That honestly, I had forgot about that part, and when that popped up today, I was like, "Oh yeah!" Like it's very video gamey, like something with that would happen, but it's also like a major reminder that like this is a very rated R horror movie.
Yeah,
because like you said, Pyramid Head straight picks her up with one hand, immediately rips all of her clothes off in one swoop, and then like his giant hand pinches her chest and just rips off all of her skin in one swoop, and then like you said, throws the body at the door. So it was like, oh shit.
You could almost make the case that until the last half hour, you probably could have pulled this off as a PG-13 movie.
Oh, for sure.
It's creepy and it's kind of scary. And then it goes, and there's blood and stuff. Like it's not bad. It could have been edited out. But then that last half hour is bananas.
Dude, effed up stuff happens left and right, which I think for me is probably why it was so memorable when this came out. I don't, what year did it come out again?
2006. So 18
okay, so I was
years
in
ago.
high school. I was like a freshman or sophomore.
Jesus.
And I don't know what it was, but I just love this movie. But it's because of things like that. The freaking Pyramid Head is pinching and ripping a girl's whole skin off. Eventually, they find out where the entity is, that what they think
the demon.
The demon that they need to go, and they need to take the elevator down to find out like
it's
the
in the
source
hospital.
Of this.
They have the map, and the demon's in like the back, one of the back rooms, like downstairs.
Yeah. So it's one of like, I think a very memorable or like iconic scene, I guess, from this movie is the mom takes this elevator down to the basement or to hell.
You got to talk about what happens first though, because like, so right when they're about to get on the elevator, the cult turns on them. the cop and Rose. Like the cult turns on them and says that they're witches and they need to be burned, right? So then they're fighting off the cult, and then Sybil the cop ends up like shutting the door on Rose so she could go down the stairs or in the elevator.
She gets captured.
And she gets captured.
Yes, which turns into one of the like most horrifying scenes.
It's part of that last half hour when it earns its R rating.
That's typically like the very first part that I think of when I think of this movie is that moment. But before we get to that, Cop and her, this is where they part ways. Cop stays back to hold off the cult, who have now turned from survivors who we thought were going to be helping to now this crazy Christian cult. But Rose takes the elevator down, and right when the elevator opens up, she steps off. She says it's really dark. She has a giant flashlight. She turns it on, and this like army of like 40 nurses that have their faces like wrapped and covered. They're super dirty. They look like almost like zombies. They're like moving like creepy, like mannequins, like stop motion almost. But they're going directly towards her where she's got her flashlight. They're coming at her. They've got knives in their hand. They look terrifying. And it's very much like, oh, you're about to get mauled by 40 of these freaking terrifying no-face nurses. And she turns her flashlight off and they all stop moving. So then she basically realizes, very a la Alien Romulus that we just watched, that was like, okay, if I don't make a sound and I don't put any light, I can walk through. And the scene, I think it's all practical effects, this specifically, but like I thought they did a good job of like setting the tone of like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Cause she doesn't try to go around this group. She literally just goes like right through the middle and is like slowly moving as it looks like they're all paused, like they can't move, but then you can just kind of see them like breathing and barely moving. So you're like, at any moment, she's going to get killed. Eventually, she makes a noise or knocks one of them, and they start like swinging their knives, and then they start basically attacking each other, trying to attack her. She drops her flashlight, which attracts them all to it, and runs and finally gets this room.
But here's a fun fact. So she now can't see, so she has to remember based on the map how to get to the room. And on purpose, they did it where she had to go like down, down, left, right, left, right. It was the Konami code.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that. I wasn't paying attention enough. Yep. I would have picked that up. I didn't see that. Love that.
Another fun fact, which you will like, that is very video gamey as well. Her ringtone, Rose's ringtone in the movie, every time her phone goes off, is the same ringtone that Solid Snake gets in Metal Gear when he gets a.
Oh my God, the Kodak.
Yeah, when he gets a coded message.
Yeah. Oh man, that's fantastic. I just watched hours and hours of Metal Gear Solid content over the last like week, so that's interesting timing that you bring that up. So there's a new they've re-releasing Metal Gear Solid 3, so I'm excited for that. Anyway, so she gets through these crazy nurses, which those nurses are very cosplayed characters in horror movies, horror cons.
Yep.
So it's cool, but she gets into this hospital room that basically has like a single bed in it, but it's a box. You can't see in it, and then there's one random nurse who looks like she's in normal clothes. Yeah, in red. She's dressed and looks very clean. She does not look like the other nurses, but there's just this blonde lady with her back to you. And this is the moment. So
her face is fucked up.
Yeah. So this is the moment where like we get word vomit of an explanation essentially of everything that's going on. So which I don't know if you want to kind of go through what the actual, you take the lead. It's bananas.
I'll take the lead. You fill in the blanks. So basically in the town of Silent Hill, this woman, Dahlia, had a child out of wedlock and didn't tell anybody who the father was. And then, like, I guess there was some weird shit anyway. So the cult basically thought that the daughter was a witch and that her mom needed to give her up because the father was probably the devil. Basically, they don't come right out and say it, but that's basically what they thought.
Yeah, they call her like she's sin incarnate.
Yes. So they take the child and they take her into the church and they tie her up and they burn her alive.
Crazy,
right? Because they're psychos, and
you see, they show.
Yeah, they show it in all of its glory of this child being burned alive, and they end up like the cops show up, and it's our cop. It's Detective Gucci, and he shows up. He unhooks her and he carries the girl. They take her to the hospital. She's still alive, but she's burnt to a crisp. I mean, like it's like 7-degree burns all over her body.
The fire like breaks or burns a part of the little metal cage that she's laying on, so it falls out of the way of the fire. So she's no longer being burned, but it also causes a fire to start in the church, and then what turns out to be the rest of the town. So
basically curses the town is this
fire.
They take her to the hospital. She lives, but like this is where her burnt body basically separates from good and evil, right? So Sharon, the daughter, is like the good parts, and then Alessa is the evil, right?
Yeah.
And you know, was it because her dad was a demon, or was it because there was so much evil that happened to this poor child that this curse happened, right? Basically, that's when the town goes black, right? You see it kind of spread away from her shroud in the hospital, and and then that's where Sharon came from. She became a baby. They took her to a convent, left her on the doorsteps, and that's like the good parts.
Yeah, that's like all that's good that's left of this kid is now a new baby that
I mean, like, I don't blame her. No.
Yeah.
I mean, more power to you.
She basically accepts all of the good of her is now in this new daughter. It's gone, and accepts that like she is going to be like a wrathful, like vengeful
demon, whatever
curse on this town and these people.
So like she's this cursed demon. She has now shown Rose what happened, but at the same time, in this shroud is like her body, like still alive. I guess I don't know. It seems like
it's like an old lady, like burned body. She's in like a.
It looks like one of the things from Cocoon. In the Cocoon, it looks like one of those. Anyway, it's weird.
Yeah,
but like
weird.
evil is basically like, I can't go in the church unless you take me there. Yep. And so she like embraces Rose and like is absorbed into Rose.
Yeah, like sucks her into her body.
And Rose is all about it. Rose is like, oh yeah, let's go. I'll help you.
She's now turned her sights on the cult as well. So she just randomly, from that moment on. Oh, by the way, the nurse that's in the room was like a random nurse at the hospital when she was originally there, burned, who like peeked in through the window to see like what she looked like inside the box. And
that's when all the bad shit started.
Yeah. So essentially she punishes that nurse by like, her eyes are like white and bleeding, and she's, I don't know, like her bedside nurse for the rest of time.
Something like that.
I don't know what they were doing there, but so Rose goes to the church basically to confront the cult, where also she realizes they have the daughter, as well as they have the police officer, and they have them tied to these giant wooden ladders. They got them tied to the top of these ladders. And basically, before Rose gets to the church, they basically it's like a cult ritual essentially, but they're saying that the lady police officer is like a heretic, a blasphemer,
Yeah.
And yeah, she is helping the witch's side. And so basically it's like you have to be cleansed. And so they start a giant bonfire in the middle of this church and slowly lower this ladder above the fire, not on the fire, like above it.
Yeah.
And you basically watch a scene of this lady. It's almost like you can feel it. Like, when you put your hand over a candle, you're not on the flame, but it still burns like a burner. You watch her from different like views. Like they show like above looking down on the fire. It's very wavy in the air. It's hot. And she is like, this is probably the most memorable part of the movie for me. Basically, she gets burned alive, and you watch her
face.
You watch her. She's like talking, and she's not screaming, but like you watch her face like start to slowly blister and peel randomly in spots, and then like essentially spontaneously like combust into flame. And
she's dead.
It's awful.
It's pretty bad.
Like hard to watch. But that's one of the reasons why I remember the movie so much, is because of like those moments. So, anyways, Rose shows up. She ends up confronting the head lady, the board queen, and the board queen, Christabella, stabs her with a knife. She can't Rose is just like yapping at the mouth, basically saying that this was your fault. You're the reason why this happened. You hurt that child. You cursed the town.
She's trying to convince all the other ones that that Christabella is actually the evil one, and they need to turn against her. And
it gets Christabella riled up. So to shut Rose up, she just stabs her with a knife, and out starts pouring not blood but black goo, which in turn turns out to be the demon girl incarnate.
Alessa, the evil parts.
Yes, which there's this, it's such a video game movie. Like video game things happen randomly. The middle of the church just starts like falling into a giant pit, into what looks like industrial coal mine, and up from the pit rises the girl's burnt body by like sentient barbed wire.
Yes.
So barbed wire lifts her up from the depths of hell and then starts just taking out all of the church folk. So
it grabs Christabella by her appendages. So she's all splayed in midair with barbed wire holding her arms and her legs apart. And then barbed wire strands go right up her hoo-ha and just rip her open. I mean, that's pretty.
Yes, pretty
nasty.
Pretty rough. I mean, that's pretty much us at the end of the movie, and we kind of wrap up kind of what they end up leaving the town.
Oh yeah, Rose saves Sharon. They get out of the town, but it's all still very ashy and snowy. They go home to their house where Sean Bean's waiting, and like they walk in, and then he wakes up and the door's open, but they're not there.
Yep.
Which leads into the sequel of this film, Resident Evil or Silent Hill Revelations, which was
which a lot of people
never saw.
Yeah, a lot of people disown the sequel of like, this was a singular movie, the other one never happened. But basically, you find out at the end that they were dead. They have died, and or at least they are permanently in another realm. They are not in the normal real world anymore. So,
yeah, I never saw Revelations, but something I did find that was funny. So, the original director, Christoph Gans, just finished making a third film.
Oh.
Called Return to Silent Hill. He made a sequel. He didn't make the second one. He made a third one, which...
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
They just wrapped filming like in the spring, but there's no word on it. I guess it's done, but...
Nice.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
I'm into that. Yeah, this movie is not like... I could see people watching this and be like, this is not a good movie. This is horrible. For what it is a video game adaptation.
Mhm.
I think it hits the mark. I actually, some of the CG is, I think, outdated, obviously.
It's 18 years old.
But the setting of Silent Hill itself, the creepy vibes, the different versions of the town, like, it's, to me, like, super cool, and the town itself is what makes this whole movie interesting. I love it. I'm gonna give it a 7. I enjoy the movie. I watching it, like I said, multiple times, I'm like, why do I like this movie? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's why.
No.
So what'd you think?
Okay, so I know I've seen this movie before, but I can't prove it because I don't remember anything about this movie until I watched it the other day. I will say this, like, the setting I think is awesome. The movie's too long. First off, it's 2 hours and 7. And there's too much going on in the middle, like, that doesn't need to happen. Like, it doesn't go anywhere, right? It's just them wandering around.
Yeah.
And it leads to nothing. But the setting is cool. Like, the town's creepy. The star of this show is the town, like, above anything else. That part's cool. I like the town. I like the setting. I like the creepy ass pyramid head and the razor wire and the nurses and stuff. I think that stuff's all really cool and the atmosphere's fantastic. The acting's not great. I don't like Raja Mitchell. I've never liked her. Like, in the movies that she's not in a ton of movies, but like Pitch Black, you've seen Pitch Black. She's the worst part about that movie. She's Gerard Butler's wife in Olympus Has Fallen. She's the worst part about that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so her as the lead in this movie, she's dull to me. Like, I'm not interested in her, and I don't think she's a good actress, and I think that's probably why she doesn't do a lot. Anyway, so I have problems with that. And yes, there is a lot of this movie that didn't need to happen, and the story's not great, but it's got cool gore in part of the movie. Like, if you rated this movie just based on the last 30 minutes, it's way better than the rest of the movie, I think, because I think that's when all the cool shit happens. Yeah. There is some cool stuff in between. It's not great. It's not awful. 6. I'm going to give it a 6.
Oh, that's higher than I thought you were going to go.
Yeah.
I honestly thought you were going to watch this movie and be like, this is horrible. Like, this is awful.
It's not horrible, but it's one of those movies that, like, while you're watching it, you want to be doing something else almost. Like, you said you had it on while you were working. I watched it and was like, and I decided to work because it was on, because it was like, I'm going to work while I'm watching this.
Yeah.
Which wasn't my original plan, but it was like,
It's the first hour and 40 minutes are very slow, very methodically moving.
I was really torn between a 5.5 and a 6. I'll give it a 6 because I think the atmosphere is pretty cool, and I do think it's something that's worth a watch. So
yeah,
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Nice, sweet. Love
anyway,
that.
Yeah. So Silent Hill. If you haven't seen it before, it's worth checking out. It's spooky season. Yeah. Watch a movie.
Halloween time. Put it on.
I did see a sweatshirt. I saw a sweatshirt the other day. I can't remember if it was Walmart or Target. It was a bright orange sweatshirt, and it said, "It's spooky season." And I was like, man, we need that sweatshirt. Yeah, but I think it was a woman.
We need a movie dad's pod. Spook. Like, where the O is big and small. Spooky.
Yes. Yeah, like it's bigger and it just gets smaller. All right. That takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So we were talking about this lately, like with our top 5s, like we've been doing like so-and-so's best movies or, like top 5 action film. Anyway, so we've been trying to do like weird ones, right? More obscure, like what we started with. So this week we went with top 5 movies with a cursed or abandoned town, which I thought was kind of fun.
Which at first I was like, I can't think of any movies, but then I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, think about and I went more cursed town, right? Like a town where like nothing good ever happens in this town. So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I went first last time. You take the lead here.
We'll go first. So, and I'm sure our list will be very different based on our interpretation of cursed town.
I think that's true.
All right. So I went straight top 5. I was gonna do an honorable mention for Hawkins, Indiana, and Stranger Things, just because I thought, like, man, that town's pretty fucked. Yeah. Anyway, but I went just top 5. And number 5, I have Children of the Corn in the town of Gatlin, Nebraska. It's right up the road.
Nice.
Boy, if you've never, like, this is Stephen King, creepy ass story about these like kids basically have taken over this town and they've killed all the adults, and like this couple wander into town, and it's very culty, and like they answer to the thing in the corn, and you think it's just this creepy ass kid that's like leading them all, but no, it's actually there's like a demon living in the corn. But it's weird. It's very dated. Like if you watch it, it's like when you watch it now, it's like nah, boring. But it is very much like the cursed town, classic horror movie Stephen King story. So I went ahead and give a shout out to Children of the Corn.
Nice.
And number 4, and this is a movie this movie's not good, but I love it and I will watch this movie. I picked Phantoms.
Nice.
Have you ever seen Phantoms?
Yes,
with Ben
I have.
Affleck? All right,
yes, I saw it on a couple lists when I was looking through.
This was actually the first movie I thought of when I came up with this list, as I was like, I gotta put Phantoms on here somewhere. So the town is Snowfield, Colorado, which there is something in the town that basically has killed everyone. And the sheriff and the deputy and these two gals, I think they're sisters in the movie. I'm trying to remember, but they end up in the town. It's very like Lovecraftian stuff. It's not a great movie, but it's kind of fun. And I always think of like there's a line, and I think it's in like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where somebody's like, Ben Affleck, you were the bomb in Phantoms, Joe. And I always think of that with this movie. But anyway, I like Phantoms. If you've never seen it, it's worth a watch. And number 3, I had The Fog, which we kind of just talked about last week inadvertently. And the town is Antonio Bay, California. So like the story with The Fog is basically there was like a ship captain or somebody had sank a ship on purpose and killed a bunch of crew members to like prevent like a leper from coming to town. I can't remember. But anyway, the town's cursed, and like the ghosts of the killed crew members come in with the fog into the town, and they have to basically kill a certain number of people to replace like the dead crew members. And that's the curse on the town. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was but The Fog, the original John Carpenter Fog, it's one of his better movies. If you've never seen it, for those of you,
I don't think I've watched it.
It's actually pretty good. Those of you that are looking for something to watch for Halloween, The Fog is worth a watch. Don't watch the remake. It's terrible.
Okay.
The original is way better.
That's awesome. Love that.
And number 2, I put the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which is Springwood, Ohio, is the town. Obviously, Fred Krueger was a child murderer that all these parents like killed because he had murdered all these children. And so they locked him into they followed him into a warehouse. They locked him in and they burned him alive inside.
Oh my gosh.
Now that, these parents all have children that are teenagers, he has returned as Freddy Krueger in their dreams to kill them. Right. And obviously the town's cursed because all these teenagers in this town are going to die one by one because their parents are cursed because they killed this monster, Fred Krueger, and he's come back. Yeah. So Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Love that. I did not like that. Wasn't expecting that. So love that.
Yeah.
It's great.
It counts as cursed town, I think.
Oh, and for sure.
At number 1, I had It Chapter 2 in Derry, Maine. The town, every 27 years, this thing, that lives in the sewers, comes up and eats and feeds on the children of the town. And the town is very cursed because basically bad things just happen to the people that live there. And every 27 years, these children all get killed and go missing because it literally eats them.
Do you have the original movies or the new movies or just all across the board?
I put the new ones, It Chapter 2, because I feel like that's one cohesive film.
Yep.
Like you could take 1 and 2 and you could, and I kind of wish Andy Muschietti would do this, is you could probably splice it up into one long film and actually have them integrated together instead of 2 separate films, kind of like the miniseries was, but that's the way the book is.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's kind of different. It's telling both sides of the story at the same time, which I think would be which would be cool, just like the miniseries did. But Derry, Maine, I did like, it was cool when I was doing this list. It was like, do I want to do the town or do I want to do the movie? And I was like, well, I'll do the movie and then I'll mention the town, because it's funny. Like Castle Rock, Maine is a town in a lot of Stephen King stories. And so like, it's where like Cujo and Needful Things and Dark Half and like all these different books take place in that town. Talk about a town that's really cursed, would be that one. But anyway, that's my list. I don't know. It's kind of, I'd kind of had fun with it just because I could talk about phantoms, so I was excited.
No, I like our list is very, very different, but I like your list because they like, I didn't think about those, and when you mention it, every one of them, like, oh yeah, like that's actually perfect for this. So love that. Mine might some be a little bit more commercial. It'll make more sense to you whenever we say it, but more of like the mainstream. But I've got a couple on here that I think you'll enjoy. So I was going to do an honorable mention, but then I just roped them both in, tied at number 5. I've got the movie Paranorman, which is Blythe Hollow.
That's a good one.
Which they have what's called the Curse of the Witch in Blythe Hollow. So Paranorman is a super fun Halloween time movie.
It's perfect.
It's just, if you like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, Frankenweenie, is that the other one? Monster House, it's very much like that. So the town is cursed. The kid can see ghosts. There's ghosts everywhere in the town. It's a ton of fun. Then I had that tied with Hocus Pocus in Salem, Massachusetts, with the classic Sanderson sisters curse on the town. I guess that's what I was more referring to, and I said more commercial, more mainstream when it comes to these movies. But Disney. When I was going through, it was like, Hocus Pocus it's the town is cursed.
It is. It works.
And it's one of the most popular, probably top 2 most watched Halloween movies every year, if not number 1.
Probably.
Number 4, this one I think is my only kind of curveball on the list. I don't know why I love this movie, but I love it. It's called 30 Days of Night.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Barrow,
movie
Alaska.
Rocks.
Yes, it's this little tiny town in Alaska that Josh Hartnett is the main character, or main actor in it. Basically, he shows up. The town is about to go dark for 30 days, but in Alaska, the sun goes down. It doesn't come up for 30 days in this town. And what ends up happening is he finds out the town is basically infested with vampires, and it's like just super gory. It's super scary. It's a movie that I feel like people don't really go back and watch these days.
Right.
But for me, I thought this movie was so cool when it came out. And so when you were talking about like abandoned towns or cursed towns, I don't know if that would count in there, but for me, I was like, oh yeah, that town itself was where vampires infested. So number 4.
That was based on a comic book.
Oh, I didn't know that. Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
I always thought that it was supposed to be a comic book, but then they made a movie instead.
No, it was a comic book first, and they made the movie based on the comic book.
Nice. That makes me think of like The Walking Dead, like perfect thing to make into a movie. Okay, my top 3, I have switched around 14 times, but I have number 3, I've got Silent Hill in Maine. Obviously I love this movie. We did a whole episode on it. Usually I don't put my movies that we do the episode on in my top 5 list, but this time I was like, I'm going to, because I feel like this list is based around specifically this very movie. The whole town, 1, the movie's named after the town. 2, the town, like you said, is the star of the show. Silent Hill, go watch it. Number 3, best cursed haunted towns. Number 2, I've got Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow, New York, the curse of the headless horseman. I think we just talked about this movie recently. I don't remember if it was on
We
the
were
list
doing the
or
Tim
not,
Burton
but
episode. We talked about it.
yeah,
When we did Beetlejuice.
it's a really good movie. Like, it's so
Such a
creepy.
cool take on Sleepy Hollow, that movie.
Yes.
It
It
is.
makes the headless, it totally made the headless horseman like popular again in terms of like mainstream
And a
scary.
complete and total badass.
Yes, freaking Johnny Depp is fantastic in it. God, who else? There's so many people.
Christina
Christopher
Ricci's in it.
Walken. Christina
Christopher
Ricci's in
Walken's
it.
the Headless Horseman, which is a mind blown when you find out. And you're like,
Dude,
what?
yes. Which, but also is like, what a perfect person to play that with his fang teeth.
Right.
Like,
isn't the like love rivalry like Christina Ricci's? Isn't it Casper Van Dien?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Nice call there. What a great movie. I've got to watch that. It's been a while since I've seen it, but we're going through this. So it's like, oh yeah, that's got to be in my top 2. And then number 1, I've got the classic version and the new versions, 4 total movies. I've got It, the town of Derry, Maine.
Nice.
Yeah, the It movies are so good. The new ones that they came out, the original ones were so creepy. I never read the book like you did, so I'm sure you have a little bit different take on it. But the original, I say movies, but it was a series.
It's a mini series, yeah, because those were popular.
Mini series
back
that they
the
turned
90s.
into 2 movies. It's like, I was afraid of shower drains for years because of the movie It. Like,
I didn't like clowns because of that movie, because I watched it when I was way too young.
Yes, clowns. Stephanie, my wife, refuses to watch the new ones, which I'm like, if you like Stranger Things, it's like rated R Stranger Things. It's so good. And she's like, I can never watch that movie because that's clowns. So, but yeah, It, classic, number 1, Derry, the cursed town. I thought that the newer movies did kind of a cooler job, or did an interesting job with some of the stuff that wasn't in the other ones. Like, like when he finds them in the yearbook or something like that, like the clowns in the yearbook, that was super creepy. God, it's so good. I love them both. I like the new and the old, but that's my number 1.
I agree. I like it because that was Tim Curry was great.
Dude.
You know, but Skarsgård was great. And it's hard to pick, like, when you watch the old one now and you're like, yes, this is clearly made for TV.
Yeah.
Like, the budget obviously was not huge. It's not as dark as it could be. But then you think about, like, this was on like ABC.
Yeah.
And it's
terrifying. Which I think that's what makes it scary, is that it feels like you're watching like an episode of Reading Rainbow. Like, it doesn't look scary.
No, and then
but
it is.
It is so terrifying.
I remember when it came out. I actually remember when it came out. I want to say I was like 8 years old. I was 7 or 8 years old. And like, I think I watched part 1 on my own, like on the TV, and my mom caught me and she was like, what are you doing? And I was terrified. Like, you had to come check like mom had to come check my closet and shit. And then they had, and like I think my mom had recorded it on VHS or something. And like the next day I like snuck and watched part 2 or whenever it came out.
Oh my gosh.
And I was messed up. That movie ruined
me. Your
me.
Mom was a horror movie watcher. That's where he comes from.
But I mean, at the same time, like, that's the mom. She would go rent me like Jason Takes Manhattan and stuff. But but I thought those were fun, like,
you mentioned
Jason movies. They were fun.
You mentioned the recording of the TV. Like, remember that back in the day, on a VHS recording live TV.
Like, you're waiting for it to start at the right moment, and you press the button, to record.
And then you write on it. Like, so how many movies did we own that was like recorded, not like actually purchased? It's great.
Yeah.
I love that. What a memory. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Love that. All right. Top 5. Like your list.
Like your list.
There's some good stuff on there. We had one similarity. It was our number 1. I love it. That takes us into our newest segment, our How Rotten Is Your Tomatoes? This is a segment where we basically throw 2 movies out to the other host, and they basically choose what they think the Rotten Tomatoes scores were for both those movies, which they think is higher, which they think is lower. Most of the time there's curveballs of like, wow, I never thought that movie was better than that. That's crazy. Howie usually tries to pick movies that piss me off. And usually he does. So I brought it around for him. So let's see if he gets upset with these. Howie's usually a little bit better than I am at hitting the exact numbers. So
you're usually pretty on. You're pretty good.
I've got 2 movies to start. One is 2002 or 2012's The Raid versus 2005 Old Boy, the original.
Wow, good picks. I like that. Boy, I'm gonna say The Raid's higher.
Okay.
At a 92. And I'm going to say Old Boy's like an 87.
Wow. The Raid is higher with an 87.
Okay.
And the Old Boy, the original, is an 83.
Okay.
However, The Raid is both an 87 as audience score and Rotten Tomatoes score. So 87 on both. Old Boy is a 94 on audience score and IMDb. So
that's weird because it's a weird movie. So it's funny to me that the audience score is that high.
Yes. And I have not watched the original like you that we're talking about here that you've talked about. I've only seen the Josh Brolin one that I was this movie is fucking weird.
Oh, the original's weird. You saw? Did you watch The Raid? Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was like the very first movie I ever watched that you were you have to watch this.
That's
movie.
Like it's that and Blade Runner what pretty much started this.
Because we were obsessed with the Judge Dredd movie, and we're like, it's just the fucking Raid, even though I think Judge Dredd came out first.
It was like whichever one came out first.
Year,
whichever one, it was the same year, but whichever one came out first was filmed second.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like they raced to get it out first.
Well, no, it was like it was like they happened at the same time, and neither knew that the other one existed. And then everybody was like, "Why did the same movie come out?" And it's like, yeah, but they didn't know, that it happened like
wild.
that.
Wild. Okay, let's jump into our next movie batch. Okay, you got the first one right. Like that. First up, both of these movies are from 1980.
Oh.
Up first, we've got 1980's The Fog versus the original Friday the 13th.
The Fog's higher.
Why do you just automatically think that?
Because I think that's viewed as a much better movie than the original Friday the 13th. I'm going to go.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm going to say The Fog is an 81. And Friday the 13th, the original is like a 79.
You are 2 for 2. The Fog is higher at a 75%. And Friday the 13th, the original is a 66%.
Yeah, that's probably right.
All right, I got 3 more batches here. Let's go. This first movie, I don't know why. I think I liked it as a kid because it's the movie that Raphael goes and sees in the Ninja Turtle movie when he goes off to watch a movie. But I've got 1986 Critters. Remember that? That movie? Critters?
I own that movie.
Versus 1987's Monster Squad. Love both of those movies, by the way.
Me too. I'm gonna say Critters is higher.
Okay.
At a 60.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say Monster Squad's like a 56.
Okay. So Critters is lower.
Damn it. I mean, I'm happy.
At a 52%. Yeah, at a 52%. Monster Squad is a 56%.
Oh, I got that. Not right.
Hit that right on the money.
Yeah, nice.
Nice. I love Monster Squad.
So
I freaking love it.
I didn't know if I told you this. So Nightmare Weekend, like everybody from Monster Squad was there.
Oh, sweet.
Like the main kid, the older kid, the cool one.
Yeah.
I
probably would have nerded out about that.
The blonde,
more than anybody else.
Dracula,
Oh my
Wolfman and the Mummy. They were all, and the dad. They were all there.
Were they all
Right in
next
a
to
row.
each other?
Yeah, they were all
like,
right
could
in a
you
row.
get? Oh man,
They were all right in a row. And then you could get a picture with, and Fred Decker, who wrote and directed it, was there. And he also, I think he did
the whole damn crew.
They were all there. Yeah, they were all there. I mean, yeah, it was cool. I mean, we walked by them, you know.
I don't know why, but I freaking love Monster Squad. It's like the original Stranger Things.
Squad. It is. It's badass.
So
it's like the Goonies and horror with like adult language. And it was like the coolest movie.
Yeah, if you like the Goonies and you like horror, you should love Monster Squad.
Wolfman's got nards.
There's another movie that I originally was going to have on one of these lists that I didn't, that for whatever reason, maybe it was just our household, but it was like a seminal, scary movie that we watched was Silver Bullet. Did you ever watch Silver Bullet with Stephen King movie?
Is Gary Busey in that?
Yep. Yeah. It's like that movie scared the shit out of me as a kid, but I really enjoyed it. Anyways, okay, let's keep moving. I got 2 more to go.
Okay.
2 more groups. Let's jump over to 1987's classic, The Lost Boys.
Mm.
In 1988's first in the series, Child's Play.
Man.
Lost Boys versus Child's Play.
I'm going to say Lost Boys is higher.
Okay.
At a 68.
Ooh.
And Child's Play is 65.
Lost Boys is higher. So you're correct there. At a 76%. Had pretty good ratings. Good reviews.
Do you like that movie?
Lost Boys?
Yeah.
I only as a kid I had seen it and knew it, but I hadn't watched the movie.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago for whatever reason. I think I was listening to the is it Cry Little Sister or whatever the song is. Mm-hmm. It prompted me to go watch the movie, and it's very 80s. I like it, but I don't think I'll watch it again.
I don't like
sense. You don't like
I think it's overrated. I just think it has people still buy posters and T-shirts and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I think it's an okay teenage vampire movie. That's all. It's okay.
There's nothing really the only thing that's really memorable about it is when they're hanging from the bridge and they fall into the fog.
Monster Squad needs to be viewed the way that freaking Lost Boys is.
I agree, and it's not, which is crazy.
It's not.
So, that Kiefer Sutherland was the main bad guy in that. Okay, yep, Lost Boys is above Child's Play, which here talk about movies that I don't like it. I don't like any of the Chucky movies. I like Chucky's Bride. I thought that was a cool movie.
I never saw the last two. I never saw Bride or Seed of. Never cared to.
The Bride, Chucky's Bride or Bride, not the newer. Did they do a remake of it?
They did a remake. Yeah, Mark Hamill was Chucky.
Oh no, I didn't see that. I'm talking about the one where the girl.
Yeah, I know.
She gets turned into.
I never saw it.
That was Mark Hamill doing the voice of that?
He was the remake when they remade it, rebooted it.
Recently. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I never saw Bride of Chucky or Seed of Chucky because I was just
no. I actually like Bride of Chucky. But other than that, the franchise itself, I think, is dumb.
I liked them.
Really?
They were entertaining. But they're so slasher movies. It's a doll instead of a guy in a hockey mask. It's hilarious.
That's a good point. Yeah, I just constantly am field goal kick him. Just kick him.
And it's Brad Dourif, and he's it's Wormtongue. He's Chucky.
He's funny. In Bride of Chucky, he's pretty funny. So okay, love that. Let's jump to the last group.
Ooh, I'm 3 of 4. I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're crushing it right now. Let's go with 2011's Cabin in the Woods versus 2009's classic Zombieland.
I think Cabin in the Woods is higher. It's close though, I bet. I'm gonna say Cabin. You're making a face.
I wasn't making a face.
Giving it away. I'm gonna say Cabin in the Woods is higher because I think that was I think a lot of critics really liked that movie. Yeah. I don't think Zombieland was bad. I think it was well reviewed too. I'm going to say Cabin in the Woods, and I think it's ridiculously high. I want to say it's like a 82, and Zombieland's like an 81. Like, I think it's going to be close.
Cabin in the Woods is higher. And it is a 92%.
That's fucking stupid.
Cabin in the Woods is a 92%. Which, when I was going through this list, that was the first movie that I picked because it's the highest rated out of all the movies I looked at.
I was going to say like 90 because I thought it was stupid high.
Out of all the movies we talked about today so far, it is by far head and shoulders the highest rated movie. And then Zombieland is an 89%. So it's very
those are both really, that's really high.
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods it's okay. Like it was fun. It's funnier than anything. Like I think it's funny, and like all that shit going on underground with the like that's the funniest part about that movie is all that behind the scenes stuff, and I think it's great. Yeah,
when that movie came out, like it was such a like wait
WTF?
What?
Yeah,
like what?
Yeah.
So that could have been on our WTF movie list
could have
from
been
last
like,
week.
what is this?
Yeah,
Zombieland, I think, is a really well done, good horror comedy. I think it's really good.
Oh, for sure.
89, I don't know, but maybe.
Yeah, enough that they made a second one, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson's great.
I cannot stand
Jesse Eisenberg.
So
he shouldn't be in a movie. He shouldn't be in movies.
He makes that movie very unrewatchable.
But out of all, like, so everything he's ever been in, Jesse Eisenberg, I've seen a bunch of his movies, unfortunately. Like but that's the kind of character that's supposed to be in Zombieland is Jesse Eisenberg. Like that's a good role for him. Just like Social Network was a good role for him. Because like him playing Zuckerberg is such a an inadequate, like unable to converse with people, social outcast. Like it's perfect. That's Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Those two roles I think are his best roles because that's who he is and that's how he acts. And don't make him Lex Luthor.
Don't make him a freaking prominent villain that we want to love to hate. Yeah. Did you ever see the movie 30 Seconds or Less? Is that what's the one? 30 Minutes or Less?
Oh, he's the pizza guy?
Yeah, he's the pizza delivery.
I never saw it because he was in it. I never saw it.
It's a bomb strapped to him. Which is a real story, by the way.
I never actually happened. I know the real story, which is nuts.
This is a movie on Netflix that's actually pretty good about it.
It's called
good.
It's crazy. Like that's a crazy story.
We're all over the place.
I never saw the Now You Can See Me movies or whatever they are, with the magicians.
The magic bank robbers.
I never watched those because he was in them.
They're actually pretty good.
I watched the first one on an airplane like last year, and I was like, okay, this movie's actually good because I like everybody else that's in it.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman and
right. I like Mark Ruffalo. And then I watched. I don't think I ever watched the second one, but I watched the first one. I was like, that's actually pretty good. But Jesse Eisenberg's in them, so I was like, ooh.
Those movies make me think like the kid versions of Ocean's 11. Like that's kind of the vibe that they give. So.
Anyways. Yeah, that takes us to the end of episode 62 of the Movie Dads podcast, the 2006 supernatural horror film, Silent Hill. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notifications when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesdays. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks, such as Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We both got stuff going on next week, so there might not be an episode, but we'll let you know for sure. Kyle's mom's coming into town. I'm going to be in the Bahamas, so I will let you know. Yeah.
You guys going on vacation or?
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I'm just going to the Bahamas just because I'm moving there.
Well, I don't know. Like a family vacay, you and the wife?
Me and the wife.
Yeah. Very nice.
Very
nice.
My wife. So I don't know if we're going to do an episode next week or not. So we'll stay tuned, but we're either going to do the new 2024 Salem's Lot remake on Max, streaming on Max, or we're going to do the new Hellboy Crooked Man also is going to be streaming on digital here in 2 weeks. So
I can't wait for that.
We'll
one.
let
I'm
you know for
excited
sure
it.
when we figure out what our schedules look like. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.